Hey everybody, it's Benny One, and I'm back at you with another Harry Potter movie review, and we're moving on to the Deathly Hallows Part 1, everyone. Year 7 in the Harry Potter story, and they decided to split the last book, the Deathly Hallows, into a two-part movie. Of course, so they could flush out the story, but also make a little more cheese, of course, because if you do two movies, you're going to get more money, of course. And these last couple Harry Potter movies, they made a lot of money at the box office. So yes, they split this book into two movies, and I'm glad they did. I'm honestly glad they did, because I felt like they did flush the story out a lot more and telling this book, because this was a big book. And I remember when this book came out, man, holy cow, everybody was pumped, excited for the end of the Harry Potter story. That is right, everyone. So just a fun little story really quick about this. Me and my wife, actually, we weren't married at the time because this movie came out in 2010, and we were in my hometown in Montana, and we took my niece and nephew, who were probably about around 11 years old. We took them to this movie, like opening weekend when we were in town, and because I was like, oh yeah, Harry Potter movie. Let's take them to a Harry Potter movie. And oh man, let me tell you what. I gotta tell you, we decided to take them to the darkest-ish and slowest Harry Potter movie in the whole franchise. So they were both kind of like, I was like, yeah, that probably wasn't the right movie to take them to. So just kind of a funny little story. So this movie opens up with a scene with Snape flying to the Malfoys' mansion, where Voldemort and all his goonies and cronies and Death Eaters are chilling. They're in Malfoy's mansion, Draco and his dad Lucius. So we get to see Snape, doing his little Death Eater flying thing into this, and does a little magic spell to open the fence so you can walk right through it. And we get this very intense scene with a teacher from Hogwarts that Voldemort ends up killing, and then Nagini gets to eat. And she pleads and begs with Severus to save her and help her because they're friends. It's a very intense sequence. Like, they set up right away how dark this movie is and how dark this last part of this story with the Half-Blood Prince and these two Deathly Hallow movies is going. Like, very, very dark. From where this franchise started with the first two Harry Potter movies to now, like, we are in the very dark adult section of this Harry Potter story. Like, that scene just did a fantastic job setting up how this movie was going to go. Because this is, I would say, probably the slowest paced Harry Potter movie as far as like action and the adventure aspect and just everything about the movie. It's slow, and it's dark, and it's kind of depressing at some points in this movie, honestly. It really is. Like, it's very depressing, this movie. The Deathly Hallows 1 and 2, I most definitely prefer the second one, obviously, because you get all the payoff in that one, and there's more action and everything in it. But this one does a pretty good job of setting up the fight they're up against, because then we get this scene with Hermione, and she has to obliviate her parents because of the threat of Voldemort, and they're all out to kill them, Harry, and everybody in the Order of Phoenix, like all of our good guys. She literally has to make her Muggle parents forget that she even existed. Like, she never existed in their lives. She obliviates them. She disappears out of all the pictures. I'm like, that is some sad shit. Like, really sad shit. And then they show everybody, in the Order go to Harry at the Dursley's house, because they show them getting in a car and leaving too, and that's the last we ever see of them, because they're even in danger. Like, they can't stay there because they know that Harry lives there, so he's in danger, because he still has the it's the wizard trace, because until you turn, I think it's 17, there's this wizard trace on you that you can be found. So And he still has this at this point in the movie, even though it disappears very soon, because Harry's birthday is always at the beginning of these movies. So we get this cool scene at Dursley's house where everyone from the Order shows up. We get all these returning characters, Mad Eye, and just they do this funny sequence where they make a bunch of them drink Polyjuice potion to turn in and look like Harry, and they're gonna do this escape. They're gonna leave. They're all gonna fly. Harry and Hagrid end up flying together on his motorcycle because he's like, how fitting that I was the one that brought you here as a baby and now I'm the one taking you out of here to safety. A little heartfelt moment between them. So we get this cool little like wizard flying action sequence where they get attacked, obviously, because somebody leaks that they're going to move Harry on this night instead of like a week later. There's a kind of a mole and a traitor in their midst, as you can say. And it's a cool sequence. Like, we get to see Hagrid and Harry down on the ground through like a little underpass, the little like road thing, and it's pretty cool sequence. And Hedwig unfortunately bites the dust in this movie, Harry's owl. Very sad moment, and everybody theorizes that it was Snape because the Death Eater that it was could have hit Harry, but they decided to hit his owl, Hedwig. So a lot of people speculate that is Snape, because if you've read the books, you know how Snape ends up turning out. We'll dive into that into the next movie because he's a bad guy at the moment, or what you believe to be a bad guy. So yeah, and we get this little sequence with Harry when he's kind of passed out on the sidecar of the motorcycle, and Voldemort flies right beside him, and like it lifts Harry's arm up because the wands are connected, and they have their little duel thing while Harry's like half passed out and shit, and Harry gets away, of course, and the thing is like Voldemort's wand, he borrows Lucius's wand and busts his little thing off. He treats Lucius like a piece of shit, which is fine because he's a horrible character. He's just vile and rude and a horrible person. So, but he realizes he needs a wand. He needs a different wand, one that actually like is his and listens to him, because they show it cracking and splintering, so it's obviously not working. But yeah, so they get away and they land at the Weasley's house, and one of the Weasley brothers gets hurt, and then they kind of have this like scene the next day. They're having this wedding because the oldest Weasley brother that works with the dragons is getting married to I can't remember her name. It's the chick from the girls' school that was in the Triwizard tournament. So like she came back. So they brought characters back from the other movies. So you get to see a lot of characters that are in the Order return in this one. Mad Eye also bites the dust in this movie. He's barely in this movie. They don't even show him get killed, which I find kind of odd that they didn't show that. Like, he was a character, yeah, he wasn't in the movies a lot. He was in the 4th and 5th movie, but they could have showed that shit. I mean, he's a character people like, so I don't understand why they didn't do that. So the new Minister of Magic shows up, old Davy Jones, from the freaking Pirates movies, that actor, and he reads Dumbledore's last will and testament, and he gives Ron his Deluminator. He gives Hermione this little kid's like wizard book that has the Deathly Hallows clue drawn in it in a few places to kind of help them, get on the journey and lead the steps. He doesn't tell them, like he always does. He's sprinkling the things they need to know in there. And then he gives Harry the first snitch that he catches in his first ever Quidditch game. So, and he's kind of waiting for something to happen with that, the minister, but nothing really does happen. So, and then that's the last we see the minister, because not that far into the movie, you find out that the people that Voldemort has embedded into the Ministry of Magic end up killing the minister and all of the leftover people. So Voldemort and all of his cronies basically run the wizarding world now because they're in charge of the ministry. It's just it's crazy how he literally has taken over. Dolores Umbridge is back in this movie. Like, she's back at the Ministry in charge. She's not at Azkaban anymore. So, and we get this little wedding sequence and all this stuff, and then there's an attack. And then basically the rest of our movie, which is most of the movie, I would say about like probably 70-80% of the movie, is Ron, Hermione, and Harry on the run out in the Muggle world at first from all these Death Eaters. They're basically on the run. They have a tent, you know, one of those wizard tents that's tiny, but when you go inside, it's like a whole living quarters, which I think is so freaking cool. I wish that stuff existed in real life. That would be so awesome. But yeah, they're hunting Horcruxes. Like, Harry literally is like, we need to go find these Horcruxes. Like, we found one, it was a fake, and they basically, the whole movie is about them finding this locket, the first Horcrux that they are trying to find, because the one they found that him and Dumbledore found in that little cave sequence, which I forgot to talk about in the last movie review, because it was a sequence with Dumbledore and Harry where they're working together, which is really cool. But they need to go find the real one, and it's around Dolores's neck. They find out eventually. But yeah, the whole movie basically is just about them being on the run and hunting down this Horcrux. And they do eventually get this Horcrux, and it leads to this cool sequence where they go to the Ministry of Magic and they use Polyjuice Potion, they infiltrate it, and there's some really funny sequences in there with Ron, who he looks like, and his wife, who is on trial. This guy's wife is on trial. It just creates for some very funny sequences at the Ministry of Magic when it's basically been taken over by Voldemort's cronies and shit. It's probably my favorite part of the movie is when they're in the Ministry of Magic and trying to get the locket off of Umbridge's neck and everything. And they do get it off. They narrowly escape too, and Ron gets like hurt and shit. And the movie's just super depressing after this point, like, because the necklace like affects them and like is affecting their moods and everything. And Ron starts to think that freaking Harry and Hermione are like having a relationship and sleeping together. So he gets pissed and he leaves, gets mad at Harry. I'm like, oh my God. And then Harry and Hermione are just on their own. And like there also is a cool sequence at Christmas time where they go to Godric's Hollow, where Harry was born. We get to see the house that's still there and destroyed from when Voldemort killed his parents. And he goes, and there's this creepy old lady just standing there staring at him while they're at the gravesite of his parents. It's a very creepy scene, and it's Christmas night. Like, it's literally I think it's Christmas night or Christmas Eve night. I can't remember, but it's Christmas time. It's snowing. And the old lady was actually Nagini the snake, because the snake actually killed, I can't remember, she's someone that knew freaking Dumbledore. I can't remember her name at the moment. I'm sorry, I apologize. But yeah, so we get a little sequence with that and the snake. And then Harry and Hermione go back, and they're just out in the woods at a place that like Hermione and her parents used to go camping, and it reminded me of that scene in the beginning. I'm like, God, that shit is so sad. And Harry is being led by a Patronus light, basically. It's a Patronus charm, a ball, and he's being led. It's the stag, his dad's stag. Or no, it's not the stag, Jesus Christ, it's the doe. It's the doe, who is, I'm pretty sure, was Harry's mom's Patronus charm, was the doe, Lily. And it leads him to this little frozen pond thing. And they need to get the sword of Gryffindor to destroy these Horcruxes. So they're looking for that in this movie too. I forgot to say that. And it's down in this frozen pond. So Harry decides to bust open the ice, get down in there, and go for the sword. He's got the necklace around him, and the necklace is trying to drown his ass because it's got a part of Voldemort in there, so it knows that they're trying to kill it. So it's trying to drown him, and then you see somebody come on and pull him out, rescue him, gets the sword, and it's Ron. He shows back up, and his Deluminator the Deluminator thing that Dumbledore gave him is how he ended up finding them. And Hermione's not happy to see him at first. She is pissed off at him. So, and then we get this sequence where they destroy the Horcrux, the necklace. There's even a scene where Harry and Hermione are all naked and hugging and kissing and shit because they're trying to, the part of Voldemort that's in it, his soul or whatever, is trying to warp Ron's mind. But they destroy it. They finally destroy it. And then basically the last part of the movie is that they get captured with this really cool sequence in the woods where they're running through the woods from some Death Eaters. And very shot, like the way that they shot that and everything was fantastic. It looked really cool. But they get captured and Hermione does a spell to like change and make Harry's face look all freaking weird and morphed. And they take them to the Malfoy's mansion and shit where Bellatrix Lestrange is. Because they actually, before this, they go talk to Luna's dad. And he's acting really freaking weird, but they go talk to him because he was wearing a necklace with the Deathly Hallows logo. And we get this backstory about the Deathly Hallows, you know, the invisibility cloak, the resurrection stone, and the Elder Wand. We get this cool backstory that's animated, which Hermione's telling the story. It's really cool sequence. So we learn about all this shit, and you realize, oh shit, Dumbledore's wand is the Elder Wand. Harry has the invisibility cloak. We haven't seen the resurrection stone. Or not the resurrection stone. Or yeah, it is the resurrection stone. Jesus Christ. There's a lot of stuff packed in these movies. But yeah, so after that sequence, you know, he alerts them because Luna actually got kidnapped and is in the Malfoy mansion, who we find out when they get captured and they go there because she's down there and they can't figure out if it's Harry, so they bring in Malfoy to see if it's Harry, and Malfoy fucking knew. He knew that was Harry, but he decided not to say anything about it, and he kind of kept that secret because I think Malfoy, even though he's a bad person, he's not totally bad. So they get locked down there. They see Luna, and then the wand dude, Jesus Christ, I can't remember his name. But Ollivander, I remembered his name. Ollivander is down there. And Dobby shows up, everybody. That's right. Dobby shows up to save them. He's like, of course I can, sir. I'm an elf. Because they ask him if he can warp them out of there. And then they get into this like wizard fight sequence and everything because Hermione's being tortured by Bellatrix upstairs. She's screaming. And they go up there and Harry disarms Draco. He disarms him because that's very important because Harry's wand got broken when they were running and zapped themselves and everything. His wand actually accidentally got broken. So he disarms Malfoy. Very important. It has a lot to play with what happens in the next movie. You wouldn't think it does, but it totally does. And right when Dobby is warping them out of there to this like beach house that the Weasley brothers, I think it was their aunt or something they said that they owned. And that's where they're going to hide out after what happened at the Malfoy mansion. He warps them out. Bellatrix throws this freaking little knife thing and it barely makes it into there when they warp away. I can't remember what that's called. I'm sorry. All the hardcore Harry Potter fans are going to be like, this guy doesn't know what he's fucking talking about, obviously. And you go to the beach where they're at, where they end up, and Dobby got stabbed with that freaking knife, and they kill Dobby at the end of this movie. Damn it, Bobby. Damn it. Rough shit. It was very sad. Harry's like asking Hermione, please, Hermione, please do something. And there's nothing they can do. So the movie ends with them burying Dobby on just a very grim, depressing note, man. This movie is very dark, very grim. So, that was the review for the Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, everyone. And we got the last part. They shot these movies back to back. And the next movie is just all payoff and the epic final battle, everybody. So I'm going to give Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Like I said, it's a very slow-paced movie, but I still think it's a good movie with the acting the way it was shot, edited, and all that stuff. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed that review. And thank you for watching. And I'll be catching you on YouTube later because I have spoken.